Did you ever have a teacher that mysteriously stopped coming to school? What happened? It wasn't so mysterious. This teacher kayaked to school every day, or damn close to it. He once walked through the gates 2 hours late. Why? Because that day was the day he took his first train. And got lost. Hopelessly lost. Lost along a straight line, between 3 simple stops. His excuse? I needed glue. His shining moment was the day after a freak accident. Someone spilled chemicals on the floor of our lab and set them on fire. Everyone was sent out and he went berserk. But the next day, he rocked up to class with the same chemicals. Everyone thought they were in for a scorching, but instead, he poured the chemicals onto the floor, pulled out a match, and lit them up like Washington, D.C. in 1812. He claimed that doing so broke down what happened, but later admitted that it was for fun. 1 year earlier, he was caught playing cards against humanity with his science students. The cards weren't his, at least. Not long after that, a student attempted to eat a pear in 3 pieces, including the core, under his supervision. They had to call an ambulance. As supreme leader of the chess team, of which I was a part, he felt it necessary to take photos before the competition. To do so, he stood back and held up a camera, but that didn't quite do the trick. Our teacher walked further and further backwards, before finally walking onto a main road. Motorists beeped at him and we shouted, but to no avail. He was as determined as Napoleon. The picture would be his. Some say cars are still stuck on Canterbury Road, waiting for his ghost to move. And move back to school. He has not. Yes. Her disappearance remains somewhat a mystery for students and teachers. Our previous history teacher had left that year, so the school had hired a new teacher who we will call Miss Van Gogh. When she first entered class, nothing seemed strange at all. Introduction, games, chit-chat. The usual stuff new teachers do to make an impression on the students. She tried to be funny, and although it falls flat we laughed anyway, mostly for formality. Miss Van Gogh wasn't an assertive person to begin with, and she clearly isn't used to handling stubborn high schoolers. Combined with the fact that she's a new teacher, it is the perfect recipe for chaos in class. I do not remember a single moment during her class when everything was under control. She did try to calm us down, but she also gave up too easily, too quickly. This went on for about 2 months or so. And during that time, we hardly ever studied history in class. 1, because the class is never conducive, 2, because even if she attempted to teach, she takes so much time only to get her PowerPoint on. Mind you, this didn't happen to a single class. It happens with all the class she teaches. One day, Miss Van Gogh didn't show up to our class. We thought nothing about it, maybe she was just sick like a normal human being would. However, this continued for weeks. Then a screenshot went viral among students. It was a conversation between Miss Van Gogh and a freshman. The freshman was asking about their test schedule and she answered as quoted, and translated. "I am no longer your teacher. I have officially transferred." We asked teachers about it, and no one had a single clue how it happened. Eventually, one teacher did clarify a few things. 1. Miss Van Gogh seldom socialized with the other teachers. 2. She had never filed for resign. 3. Not even our principal knew where she went. And just like that we lost our history teacher. To be fair, we were most probably at fault too for not being great students in class. Did we feel guilty? A little bit. There was this one teacher at my school that nobody seemed to like. He constantly talked about himself during class instead of doing his job, called himself handsome and successful regardless of the fact that he was a balding high school math teacher, and just generally rubbed people the wrong way. In secondary 1, grade 7 for you non-Québécois, I still had a healthy fear of authority and had never even been to detention, never mind gotten a phone call home. Long story short, this guy called home. He was pissed that I'd argued with him about golf being irrelevant to mathematics, long story, and decided it was worth a phone call to inform my mom of my bad attitude. For the record, she laughed in his face. But besides being an absolute idiot, his creepy behavior was also a hot topic of discussion, especially among the girls. To put it bluntly, people said he was a pedophile. They said he sat the bustiest girls at the front of the class so that he could look down their shirts. There were even rumors that he had been previously charged with sexual assault to minors, but was never punished. I'll be the first to say that high schoolers are dramatic. You can never trust the rumor mill. But where there's smoke there's fire, and with this guy, there was a lot of smoke. Even around me, who he constantly called obnoxious, he acted weird. He had this way of getting way too close to his students. He'd press up against me while checking my work over my shoulder, in a way that wasn't normal. He complimented my friend, age 12, on her beautiful eyes. He was controlling in the classroom, to the point that challenging his views on golf warranted discipline. I was happy to move on to secondary 2, content in the knowledge that I never had to hear about him again. Except that didn't turn out to be true. A few months ago, he was mysteriously replaced with another teacher. Not a word from the rest of the staff, even as the kids interrogated them for answers. There were rumors that he had hit one of his 7th grade students and was going to court. Those rumors turned out to be 100% true. And that court case brought everything else out into the open, including his prior charges of sexually assaulting minors. Everyone was shocked. We'd all known that he wasn't quite right, but I always thought the rumors were exaggerated. I thought, there's no way that a verified sexual predator could ever be hired by my school. As it turns out, I was wrong. The court case is in August. I deeply hope that he gets sentenced this time around, instead of just being moved to another school like he was the last time. And I also hope there's no golf where he's going. The bastard doesn't deserve it. My Spanish 2 teacher mysteriously stopped showing up towards the end of my 10th grade year. She was very busy for a Spanish teacher, but only half of what she did in class had to do with Spanish curriculum. She sat at her desk and assigned us busy work while she did work for the school's student government, as she was the leader and responsible for handling much of student government's finances. She planned homecoming along with various student activities and was even involved in a student trip to Peru set to take place during the summer after that school year, all of which required students to pay to participate, and it seems that she handled all the money for said events. She was a favorite among many students and helped many students who came to her with personal problems, and was also close friends with an administrator that had high authority at the school. My brother and sister even had her as a teacher several years before me. Back to the purpose of this response, my Spanish teacher stopped showing up 1 to 2 months before the end of the school year. No warning at all, and since I went to a very large school with about 3,000 other students, rumors started immediately. The substitute teachers for her class weren't told anything about her disappearance, and the full-time teachers claimed they had no idea what was going on. Some students said it was a sex scandal, others said her mother passed away, some claimed they knew what happened and that they weren't allowed to discuss it. Who knows if they were lying? I can't remember exactly when the real reason was found out by students, but it was after a news report stated that she had embezzled about $30,000 from the many student government activities she was in charge of. Turns out my old Spanish teacher had a gambling problem and she threw $90,000 into slot machines. Apparently she had better luck with her sentencing than with the slots. She only ended up with 2 years of probation, no jail time, and she has to pay the $30,000 back to the school. I also want to add that her close administrator friend resigned shortly this all went down. This is all public information, but out of respect I left the teacher's name out, although you can probably find the news reports using what I've disclosed in this answer. You might think it's pretty dull of someone to steal $30,000 from one of the largest public schools in Michigan, but to me it just puts the power of addiction into perspective. I'm currently a high school senior, and until March, I had a strange math teacher who was pretty suspicious. He often randomly started singing the Beatles, or quoted Dr. Phil. They weren't even Dr. Phil quotes, he just said they were. If someone asked to go to the bathroom, he'd make them wait. He accused a really intelligent football player of having a head injury because he asked a question about a problem. A few years ago, he threw a desk at a student and got suspended for a few weeks, and he went on to tell a female student that she had nice thighs. He had an old mini fridge in his closet, allegedly filled with expired fruit cups, and there were family photos on his desk, but the pictures faced the students rather than him. One day after I got home from school, my mom got an email from my principal saying that my teacher was not going to be in the classroom anymore. No explanation, just that. The next day we had a random sub, and the next Monday, we had an entirely new teacher who was hired almost immediately after my original teacher left. She wasn't told what happened to him, so we all theorized, but we never found a definitive answer. A rumor started that he followed a student into the bathroom because he thought they were taking too long to return to class.